to turn your still life photograph into a black and white photo, and also do a basic workflow. Now, a basic workflow on a photograph ensures that your photograph is edited properly. It has a variety of tones ranging from black right through to white, and a few mid-tones in between. This will ensure that you'll have a good photograph to do a realistic drawing from. So I'm going to start with this particular photograph of a still life. Now, the first thing I'm going to do when I open my photo is ensure that I have the appropriate workspace selected on Photoshop. So when I go onto Photoshop, I'm going to go up here to Window, and I'm going to go to Workspace, and I've selected Photography because that will give me my layers on this side and also my toolbox on that side, as well as, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I need. There's just one more thing. If I go to Window, I also like to select History because, as you probably already know, with Photoshop, if you make a mistake, you can Control Z once, but no more than that. Whereas History allows you to go backwards in time if you make a mistake. Anyway, the first thing we're going to do is crop our image. Now, I'm just going to crop it in a way that I have my rule of thirds working. Now, as you can see, those Dorothy slippers on the top upper left side are one of the focal points of my composition. So when I use the crop tool and I activate it, it actually makes those shoes on a hot point, which is where the 3 columns and 3 rows intersect. So I'm just going to crop it there and click enter. I do want a rectangular shape because our paper is going to be rectangular. So don't crop it into a square or anything that is too unusual. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this photo into a black and white image. So I'm going to now use layer adjustments pretty much the whole time. So up here is layer and new adjustment layer, and I'm going to go down to black and white. Okay, I'm just going to click OK. And you'll see that it's given me all these options up here. Over here I have the default black and white, which looks okay, but I don't think there's much contrast. Okay, so we can apply various filters to our photograph to get a variety of tones. So here I've got mainly mid-tones, and it looks kind of boring and flat. So I'll try blue. Now blue looks a little bit too unrealistic. So I'm just going to go through. Now I like darker, it's not too bad. Green filter actually gives me some wonderful highlights here as well as deep dark shadow. So I'm really enjoying the green filter. So it really depends on what colours you have in your photograph. So I'm just going to go through them. I'm not going to pick anything too unusual. Lighter seems to work as well, although there's not as much contrast as the green filter. I don't like that one or that one. So you can see not all filters are suited. Notice how the red shoes, when you put a red filter on, what the red does is it lightens everything that's red. So the poppies are light as well. And everything that was the opposite of red, for instance, the green book, is darkened. And finally, the yellow filter. I think I'll go for the green. And I'm still not happy with that. I think there's still some improvements that can be made. So the next step is to do the levels. So again, we go up to layer, new adjustment layer, and we're going to go to levels. And this is where we control the amount of black and white in the photograph. So remember, we are doing a wide tonal range, at least 10 tones. One needs to be black, and one tone needs to be pure white, and the rest need to be mid-greys. So over here, the levels has given me a graph, and we call this a histogram. And on this side, you can see the little black button here. This represents the amount of black I have in my image. And down the bottom here is the amount of white. So far it looks like I do have some blacks and I do have some whites, and these are all the mid-tones. So you've got your dark mid-tones right up to the light mid-tones. So because your monitor is not necessarily accurate, what I am going to get you to do is to click Option. So the Option key, or the Alt key if you don't have a Mac, is near your space bar, and you're going to click that and the black, and that actually shows you all the blacks in there, and I actually think that looks pretty good to me. If I do the same with the white, I can see that, yeah, there are some white tones, and so that looks pretty good too. So I have my rich blacks and I have my brilliant whites, and what is left are the mid-tones, so I can sort of adjust that as well. Okay, so I think I'm going to just move it to the left so I have some lighter greys. I don't want to have a really dark image, and now I'm happy with that. The final thing I'm going to do is save it. I'm going to save it twice. The reason why is because I want to save it as a Photoshop file just in case I print it out and I think, you know what, I want to adjust those levels a bit more. A Photoshop file retains all these layers over here and allows me to make further adjustments. I could just simply double click on that and I could readjust it. But I'm also going to save it as a JPEG because the photocopier at school will only accept JPEGs or PNGs for that matter, but we'll stick to JPEGs for simplicity's sake. So I'm going to firstly go File, Save As, and I'm going to save it with my name. Makes it much easier for your teacher. I'm just going to call it Hannah_Still Life. I'll just save that on my desktop. Which I'll save in my Still Life folder. And then I'll click Save. Okay. And then finally I will save it as a JPEG, and that is what I am going to upload to Canvas as well. You don't want to upload Photoshop files because it means your teacher has to open it up in Photoshop and resave it as a JPEG. So please don't do that. So again, Hannah Still Life, and I'm just going to change this to JPEG. If for some reason you can't see a JPEG, over on the side there is usually Save a Copy button, which hasn't appeared here. But if you see that, click on it and it'll allow you to save it as a JPEG. So click Save. And finally, just make sure it's a large file, so it's on 12, and then click OK. So that is the JPEG that you will be submitting onto Canvas, and that I will then print off for you, and you'll be using as a resource to complete your pencil or charcoal drawing this term. Thank you. Bye.